Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fortress Comic News, episode 342. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host, Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Nothing much. Just hanging out, recovering from the vid.
Living that COVID life.
Yep. I think it's my third time having it now, Chris. It's like a joke now how many times I've had it. I don't know.
So I think legitimately I've had it once.
Yeah.
I've tested positive twice.
I've had it 3 times and I've had all the boosters and vaccines. I must be so immune at this point that I'm just turning into the virus myself. That's why I'm always testing positive. I just am the virus at this point.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so you got all your boosters and you got your shot and everything.
Yep.
And you remember the emergency test that they did a few weeks back on our phones?
Yeah. Yep. I've been activated.
That was actually activating your 5G.
That was my call to arms. Rise up.
Dude, that made me laugh so hard when I read that.
I know. Man, the shit people come up with, they have too much time in their hands. I don't know about you, Chris, but I work for a living. So I only have time to talk about comics.
I say I work for a living, I do this, and I decide, hey, let's do a Substack. And Mike, I just joined a gym, so now I'm gonna be going to a gym 4 days a week.
All right.
So
nice. I'm happy.
There's no time.
Yeah. I did start going back to a gym too, so I'm happy for you. It's the great motivator.
Yeah, I started to see myself slip doing it at home.
Yeah, dude, you're like, oh, maybe I could just skip those last 3 sit-ups, those last couple push-ups. That's how I would be when I would work out at home. I'm like, I don't need to do that many reps.
Well, you know what did it, and legit, it was COVID. So when I got sick, and so that week I didn't work out at all because I was sick. And then I think the next week was when I think I'm where you're at right now, where I just felt tired all the time.
Yep.
And then the following week, I was like, okay, I'm feeling normal again. And I got back into it. And I have not done the same routine since. So I'm thinking, all right, let's switch it up. Let's leave the house, go to a gym.
There you go.
Get judged by other dudes.
Hey, that's just it. I think people being around me definitely motivates me to work out more. I go at 5 a.m. when it's all like 60 plus men. And my thought process is like, if these guys can lift and do all this shit at this age, what's my excuse?
I wish my Planet Fitness near me isn't 24/7.
Oh, okay.
So they open at 5, which is when I'm driving to work in the morning. So
that sucks.
I still have to do afternoons, but it's fine.
Well, everybody, we do have a returning guest today. Nigel Carrington's back in the show from, I think, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We talked to Nigel. I have a vivid memory of being in my Massachusetts apartment talking to Nigel, so it had to be at least a few years.
Yeah, you were definitely in Massachusetts. Yeah, Nigel's a guy I love. I mean, local boy up here near Rochester, where I am. So, really happy to get him on.
Going to talk about Scarlet Ibis. Ibis?
Yeah.
I'll have to ask him how to pronounce it. Yeah. We'll have the source material. We'll have the straight from the source. We'll talk to him about that.
Yeah. And you'll hear an interview, but doing some cool things with it too. So not only do you get a cool comic out of it, but it's going to go to some pretty cool charities as well. But we'll get into that with Nigel.
I did finish a couple things. I finished Ahsoka.
Okay.
Really good. I think everything was really cool. The fights were cool. Where all the characters left off were cool. No, I thought it was a great first season. And I can't wait to see more. I mean, Rosario Dawson steals the show. I think her interactions with Anakin were really cool. And like Thrawn seems like a baddie. And the whole the like witches thing was really cool. That that whole like dark magic thing. I think that aspect was really cool. And the way she kills that witch was awesome. Whatever her name was, where she uses her sword against her, like cuts her in half or whatever. I was like, oh fuck yeah.
I really like that they explored that, because that's something in extended universe, both old and new, where it's like the Force isn't just like Jedi and Sith. Like there's different ways to wield it, and one of them is through these like witches.
Yeah, they're like they can like tell the future and shit. It's pretty cool.
It makes it even more fantasy, because they're basically necromancers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they are like necromancers. Yeah. And it like takes a toll on their body too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then just a project I'm working on, Chris. I got the comic art finalized this week. Yeah, so more news about that. Hopefully send it over to the letterer, and hopefully we'll have some finished pages within a couple weeks. So excited for that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Dude, not comic related, but fucking awesome. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes trailer dropped.
Yes, we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, that's not in the news. We can talk about that. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So not still the same Reeves universe, but a different director. Is that what I'm guessing? Because that's still Caesar, right? In the trailer. Do we know?
So there's definitely a time gap here.
But I would think that's the same character.
And I think it's a descendant of Caesar, because didn't Caesar die?
Oh, maybe he died in the last. Yeah.
It's been a minute since I watched those movies. I'm thinking this is closer, like in timeline wise, it's closer to the original Planet of the Apes movie.
And that's
because
yes, okay.
If you watch the humans in it seem like feral.
Yeah, they're like cavemen.
Yeah, and that's, if you remember from the original movie, that was the big thing, is like the reason Taylor is so unique is that he can speak and he can write, and like humans are seen as animals because they can't speak, and they just kind of like wander the forbidden zone. So I'm wondering if we're closer to that timeline, obviously before, because as we get into the original movies, like there's really only one civilization that we know of. But yeah,
well, we're almost getting into the Marky Mark timeline now, where it's
we don't talk about that movie, Mike.
Hey, that wasn't a bad movie. All right,
it's fucking awful.
I watched it a bunch of times as a kid. That was the Planet of the Apes I watched and enjoyed. Okay,
you had a terrible childhood.
Whatever, but I'm just talking about like the gorillas being the assholes, the orangutans being the wisdom guys, and I just think that the oh man, who played? I'm trying to think of the guy from the Green Mile played the gorilla in the Marky Mark ones. He was awesome. You just won't even acknowledge the existence.
I memory wiped that movie.
So what do you think about this movie ends with like the spaceship landing with the humans? Well, is that how you'd want this first? Because this is like the start of it all, right? So that's essentially where the original series, that's how their timeline goes, right?
There's a few things that could happen. I mean, I don't think at this point you want to remake the old movies. Like, either they're just not continuity anymore, or which they're not at this point, really, because we can get into the whole time travel aspect of Planet of the Apes,
right?
But or you're going to start something new with it. But I don't know. I think that they're going to try to milk it a little bit, that this is going to be like another series of movies where we're going to get to the point where we're at the one main civilization and like the religious aspects of it and all that. I don't expect this to end right where Planet of the Apes starts.
I do wonder how it's going to hold up with no human or like human looking people being like the main point of the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and they're not even humanoid, because like we always had masks or like humanoid looking characters. This is obviously all CGI, where a main character is like a CGI ape. And so like I wonder how that's gonna unfold.
I never watched it, but I mean they did the quote unquote live action Lion King movie.
Yeah, I didn't watch that either.
So I mean it's been done.
No, it's been done. Huh.
Yeah, there's a lot to wonder, because that's my other thing is like the apes in the original Planet of the Apes movies, and even in the Marky Mark one, seem to have evolved to be more humanoid and
Like
less ape.
bipedal, yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, walking on 2 feet, yep.
And that's another reason why I'm kind of like thinking this is earlier in the timeline,
That would make sense.
that maybe this is a few generations before all of that happens. But once again, this could just be a way, like you said, to do this, end it with the ship coming, and then the next movie is like a remake.
Yeah.
But
The next movie is just like a war between lasers and apes. Laser guns and apes with spears.
yeah, but I'll be interested. The other, I mean, yeah, there's just so much we don't know about that universe, so
Right.
it doesn't seem like there's as much ruin. And I'm trying to remember, because I've been wanting to rewatch the original movies. I watched the first one recently, but later on they do explain how like civilization fell and everything, and I can't remember the exact reason. But I mean, the iconic scene where like the Statue of Liberty is buried.
Yeah,
You
right.
only see the torso. And it doesn't seem like we're that far in the future, because the city still exists. It's just they're kind of covered in shrubbery and green.
Shrubbery.
Yeah.
Nice. Word of the day, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
I'm excited too. I think it does look good. The CGI looks great, like the last movies. So they kept that whole team, I would think. I didn't realize it is Legendary doing this one like the last ones. I thought they did the last ones.
I think
Brothers?
so, because we did this before.
Yeah,
somebody's screaming at their.
I know.
Thing.
Well, because we went down the rabbit hole of like Fox owns the rights, but then it went to Warner Brothers somehow.
Yeah, so this is technically a Disney movie.
Right. I think everything's technically a Disney movie now. Everything just falls in under the mouse.
It is.
We'll have to find out, because now I'm curious if it's like, if it's passing the torch, then it would have to be a different continuity.
It's still 20th Century, so it's 20th Century Studios now.
Okay,
but 20th Century Fox, yeah. So they're still doing it.
Yeah. Okay. More to come, I guess. With that, we'll just jump into the TV stuff. First trailer for the Echo series dropped. Will release on Disney Plus and Hulu together in January, because Disney owns both. And Chris has got the lovely trailer here for me. Chris, I have no idea who Echo is. So
you didn't watch the Hawkeye miniseries?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Yes, you know who Echo is.
Yeah, I know who Echo is. Okay. I forgot this is the whole thing. Oh, okay. We got Vincent Deer, whatever. We got Kingpin back. I can't pronounce his last name.
Isn't it D'Onofrio?
D'Onofrio, something like that. People are like Di Farino. I don't know. But we have Vincent Mazzabal back.
Yeah, I like that, because if you remember, Hawkeye ends with like an off-screen quote unquote death of Kingpin.
Yeah.
That I believe I said at the time,
he's not dead.
I don't see a body. He's not dead.
Yeah.
And this kind of proves it, because you'll see later on in the trailer why it proves it, because that was a flashback scene we just saw. But I don't know. Echo's a fine character. I'll watch the series. I mean, I said a million times, I'm this deep in the MCU. Like, you really got to fuck up to like to lose me at this point.
Yeah, and I think this character, I mean, she earned her stripes in the Hawkeye series. You know, the deaf assassin. And now we're getting into her like Native American roots, which I think is really interesting.
And also, she has connections to Daredevil, which he will be in the series. He actually, you probably missed it, because I missed it until I saw an article about it. But we literally just saw Daredevil jump through the screen.
Oh, okay.
It's like a split second, yeah.
In costume.
Yeah. So there's the moment I'm talking about. Like,
he has an eye.
He was obviously shot in the eye and somehow survived.
Well, his eye was so strong that the bullet didn't go to his brain, Chris. It just stopped at the eye. Oh, man. Yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, I will watch it for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. I think it looks good. Like I said, Echo's a fun character, so. And she's pretty badass if you like assassin stuff. If Hawkeye or Black Widow are your thing, in the MCU. I'm sure it's gonna be fairly similar, probably a little more violent than those were. Closer to like what Daredevil did in the Netflix series.
I think huge for the deaf community to have a main character show like that and within Marvel, like, right? That's crazy.
I mean, yeah, you know how I am. Good for them, but that doesn't move the needle for me. Like, just tell me a good story, and if you do it right, then it should be a part of the story because it is a major part of her origin and
I'm just
everything.
pointing that out. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how many deaf superhero, like she's kind of like an anti-hero now at this point. Shows there are movies. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of like when she teams up with Daredevil because it's like a polar opposite kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think. Yeah, because he's blind. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Daredevil.
always forget he's blind. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a blind man with the superpower of sight, and then she's a deaf person with supernatural abilities.
Yeah, they do kind of like yin and yang almost.
I think bigger in her story, like the death thing plays a part.
Yeah.
But bigger in her story is the Native American background because that leans into her powers.
Yeah.
Is that so?
Yeah, it's really cool. I think she was an interesting character.
Yeah, she is. I think it'll be good. I know there's been a lot of conversation recently around Marvel, specifically Marvel Studios. But I don't know. I was reading a lot about it, and even though people keep pointing out like these movies or these TV shows and everything aren't doing much, and the movies aren't as big as they were, I was kind of looking behind the scenes, and all this TV show has to do is have a toy in Walmart, and it's successful.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see these going anywhere anytime soon, and that makes me happy because we'll talk about Loki in a little bit. I think the brand's strong. It has its duds, but it's still been really good overall.
Great. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I guess you'll talk about Loki now. Season 2, episode 5.
This was a bit of a down episode, mostly because it showcased something that they talked about throughout the end of last season and all of this season, which is the fact that everybody at the TVA is a variant and that they were pulled from their timeline before it was pruned.
Yeah, wiped out.
Destroyed, whatever you want to, word you want to use. And at the end of the last episode, we saw the flashing light where the timeline, the weave that was bringing it together and keeping it under control kind of blew up. And it basically reset the multiverse. And we got to see everybody as they were before the TVA got them. So it was funny because like one of the characters was like escaping from Alcatraz.
That's funny.
We learned that like Owen Wilson, the reason he's obsessed with ski-doos is because he used to own a store that sold ski-doos.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, and like stuff like that. And then Loki starts time slipping again, going to the different places where they are, and is able to bring them all together.
Nice.
And like Short Round. So Short Round was a physicist who if I could like just cut these scenes together for you and send them to you, I would, because I think you'd find it funny.
Yeah.
Where he's a physicist and he says like, yeah, I had to go get my PhD for my day job, but like I really just want to be a sci-fi writer. And he has like all these books in his office of like things he's written.
That's so funny.
But they bring them all together because Loki thinks that the timeline's going to disintegrate if they don't bring back the TVA or fix what happened. And they do that, and guess what? The timeline disintegrates.
Wow.
But Loki learns how to control his time slipping through that.
Okay.
And the episode ends, huge spoilers, I guess, but it ends with him time slipping back before the weave blows up. So obviously we're going to do some, time fuckery here and save the weave by going back in time.
Caddyshack kind of thing going on, or Groundhog Day. Sorry, not Caddyshack.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, it was a decent episode, but it was like, it could have been cut. Is what I feel like. It's not quite filler, but at the same time, it feels fillery.
Yeah.
But not a bad episode. Like the Owen Wilson scenes were funny. And what's the actor's name that played Short Round?
I can't remember his name right now.
I feel bad just calling him Short Round over and over again.
Yeah.
But his scenes were funny. Everybody else I could have kind of done without. And then we're reminded in this episode that McDonald's spent a lot of money to get advertising.
Really?
Yeah, he time slips back to find Sylvie, and she's once again working at McDonald's. So it just literally he time slips and then like appears, and there's just a huge and to be fair, like classic from our childhood McDonald's right behind him with the sign glowing right over his head. And I was like, oh yeah, there's the advertisement right
Big
there.
money, and it's Ki Hui Kwan who plays.
His first name is Key.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Ke. I believe it's Key.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Key.
Yeah.
Give the man some respect because he's been phenomenal in this series. He's
amazing.
been really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a bad episode. Just kind of we got from A to B longer than I felt we needed to. But I'm still really enjoying the series altogether. I think that every series has this episode in it where I'm like, yeah, we could have done without it.
You mean the Doom Patrol announcing that they're working on the musical episode? Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Good job.
The Boys Gen V season finale. So I did not realize this is the season finale. Because IMDb said 10 episodes, and it was 8. When I had looked it up, but it was you got to get caught up because
I'm caught up.
Oh, you are caught up. So you watched it? Okay.
Yes, I did.
For a finale being 32 minutes was kind of interesting for me, but where they leave off was wild because like you think the heroes are going to save the day, and they kind of do, but then you see the divide between the soups of like, oh, we should not be controlled. We should just start killing all the humans, which kind of like is Homelander's views. So now you have young people coming up in the next generation that are starting to feel that way. And Homelander seems to be a little more open about it. And yeah, so we end up, the episode ends with the kids that are trying to do the right thing locked in a room in a hospital somewhere without a door. So yeah.
So real quick, just a summary, because I watched all.
I know you watched like 6 episodes, right?
Yeah, 5 episodes. I binged them last night.
Wow.
All in all, awesome show.
Okay, good. Awesome. I knew you'd love it. Yeah.
Some highlights. Tech Night was phenomenal. I like how they changed Tech Night, but they kept the sexual depravity of him.
Yep.
And used it in a really like unique way that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
On how like he just was constantly looking for holes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's fucking weirdo.
Soldier Boy, his like cameo was okay, I guess. It was cool seeing him again, but I don't know. I thought him and the Boys proper was way better.
Oh yeah, for
sure. The main girl learning how to use her powers like more efficiently.
Yeah.
One thing that has now scarred me for probably quite a while is watching her blow up a man's genitalia.
Yeah. Much deserving of it.
Not that that dude didn't deserve it.
Yeah, but
having to see it may have scarred me.
And finding out that her powers are what the vice president has, right, is pretty huge.
I was gonna say, because that character, is she the vice president now?
I think so. Or she's running for office.
I think she's running for office because she's supposed to be a senator or something.
Yeah,
I always called her AOC because it was very obvious from the start that she was like, she was written to be similar, at least in look and like presentation. And finding out that like they shared the same power, which means that this girl can explode heads later on, which is also fun. Was cool. The finale, all in all, I didn't mind. I thought what was cool about the finale is that this was obviously meant to be X-Men. Right. And I think this was kind of meant to be the Phoenix Saga in a way, where like the girl kind of goes evil and like has control of these like strong powers all of a sudden. but it subverts away from that and basically creates the Brotherhood and the X-Men.
Yeah.
But flips it because the Brotherhood, although they're doing evil things, ends up being the ones that look like the good guys, and Homelander helps out, while
Right.
the X-Men are like put into this cell thing,
Yeah.
and we don't know what's going to happen to them. So
Right.
I'm down for season 2. We talked about that last week. That's coming
Yep.
out. I'm
Mhm.
even more down for it because the season was great. If you're a boys fan, it really does fit in, and I think I stand by kind of my initial thoughts where if you get past episode 1 and really dig into the series, it's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for season 2 as well. I'm super hyped for it. And I want to say the girl with the bloodbending powers does a great job. Like, I don't remember seeing her acting in anything else. I thought she was a great lead character.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the interesting thing about the character who was like tortured, it kind of makes sense that he wouldn't want to just like stand aside and not do anything, right? So
yeah,
I thought that was all. When she blows up her hand, that was sick.
I also think that at least one of the like more minor characters
Yeah.
in here will be in season 4 of The Boys.
Yep.
I also think at some point in season 4 of The Boys, Butcher and crew are going to save
Yes.
the good guys.
Yep.
And that's going to set up season 2 of Gen V.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
That's
I'm
probably
really excited for season 4 of The Boys.
Yeah, I know. I can't
Yeah.
wait. I think one of those kids that was evil, either the boy or the girl, are going to end up on the 7 of next season of The Boys.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's gonna be one of the more minor ones. Maybe like the one that was
possessing people.
No, my first thought is the one that's the brother of Golden Boy?
Yeah, like the super strength kid.
Yeah, who was seeing all the puppets and shit.
Yeah, he'll probably be on there.
So that was my first thought. If not him, it will be the girl because they have to, in terms of how the 7 see thing and Vought sees things.
Yeah,
you want to replace Starlight, so why not with another
female
blonde woman?
Yeah.
It's an easy swap in, and then she's got powers that Homelander could find useful.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
It's a cool universe that they're building here.
Yeah, they did a great job. A couple other things I watched. Did you watch the new episode of Invincible?
Oh, that came out?
Yeah, season 2, episode 1. I was surprised too. It wasn't announced anywhere. Someone had to text me about it. So
you would think when I turned on
Amazon
last night that it would have been right on top.
Nope, it's not. You got to look for it. It was a good start. That's all I'll say. We get a recap of where everybody is. Mark has a lot of PTSD from what happened to him with his dad, rightfully so. And he kind of starts working with Cecil again. And we get introduced to Angstrom Levy. So we're going to do that whole story arc, which is pretty interesting. Okay. That's pretty much what it sets up. So I'm excited for the season.
Cool. I'll have to watch that tonight or tomorrow.
Yep. And then I was pleasantly surprised, Chris. I actually watched this a few weeks ago. Blue Beetle was really good. And I did not expect to like it this much. I watched it as like, okay, this is just going to be a friggin' just a popcorn movie, whatever. It's really good. Main takeaways, it addresses and alludes and teases like the original Blue Beetle is trapped somewhere. It's much like Ant-Man, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, the villain going into this movie, I thought the villain was just some dude in another suit that was red as opposed to blue.
That was what I thought.
I was so impressed with the way they wrote the villain in this. He basically was like a child soldier that, basically, Ted Cord's sister runs Cord Industries, and she's basically making it like a Tony Stark like arms race company where they're just trying to make they're developing the Omax, which, wasn't shown at all in the trailers. So she's making an OMAC suit pretty much. And if you read the comics, the OMACs was a terrible thing for the Justice League because like it would take over a human, and if you were to destroy this robot suit, you would kill an innocent human. So like that was kind of the thing. But now they've switched it and kind of making it as like a military thing. Her like personal bodyguard, Carapax, you think he's like this badass war general. What you find out is like you go through his history. He was like a child soldier, like in a third world country where his family dies, and like he gets the only like option he has to like go up through the ranks and become a soldier, but like he gets blown up by a landmine. And so like it's almost like this abusive relationship where he's like the bodyguard to the Cord sister, but also like she's done all these experiments on him to give him like mechanical parts, and like is using him to like be this next super soldier. And so he kind of has that realization like halfway through the movie. So he's not just this like brooding, like just like one-off army dude. So I really liked that storyline. George Lopez is hilarious in the movie. He's got a lot of great lines. And yeah, I mean, it didn't have this huge continuity thing. It wasn't like a world-ending story. It was really more about like Cord Industries was taking more and more land from Mexico, and like building all these, and they're doing a bunch of things. They're building these high-rise apartments where the local community can't afford them, so it's pushing that. So they have like the local community has like a bad taste in their mouth about the company and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think it was a lot of fun. Visually, the graphics were really cool. Some of the fights were cool. The meaning of like the family and everything was really cool. No, I thought overall it was a lot of fun. I think I enjoyed it. I had more fun watching it, and the plot was definitely a lot more coherent than The Flash, I will say. Yeah, so I think if you watched it, like if you got some free time, it's not like a life-changing movie. I think it was good, and then it teases that Ted Cord is trapped somewhere and like reaches out at the end of the movie. So that was a pretty cool tease.
Well, we'll never know, Mike.
I know. We'll never get Blue Beetle.
The most important question here.
Yeah.
Did they say the Batman is a fascist line?
Yeah, but it was more along like they don't really show you in the trailer, but the uncle is like a conspiracy theorist. So he's like one of those tinfoil hat guys.
Wait, George Lopez is a tinfoil hat dude?
Yeah. Oh. So it makes a little more sense why he says that. But he's also like he's like a really smart tech guy with like an engineering degree. So like he believes on this shit, but he also like he always thinks like Big Brother's watching. So that's why he says that shit. That's why his character is like really funny.
I'm going to stay away from certain words in this critique, but as you describe certain things, it sounds much more interesting.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish they would not. And this is not a critique to DC. This is a critique to Hollywood. Okay?
Right.
And I don't know, because, white dude here. But I could care less about. I want to say this right. I could care less about the fact that it's the first like Hispanic superhero. Not that that's not important, and not that that's not a part of this character, but I care more about the story you're telling. Am I making sense here, Mike? Like, do I sound like an asshole?
No, I mean, like, I don't think they really focused that on that in the trailer. But they also didn't do a good job of telling the story.
In the PR and as a whole, I remember that was a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing. For sure.
And the trailers, like, they focus too much on, look at me, it's Blue Beetle, and they like. I remember my critique of the trailer was, this just looks like Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
And from everything you're saying, it sounds different. So, like, my thing is the trailer should have done a better job of showcasing some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And although the Batman is a fascist line was used for the reason I said, because as you explain it, once again, I'm like, okay, that makes sense that he would say that.
Right. Because you don't know, like, all you see is the George Lopez character saying that. You don't know, like, how he feels about anything else.
Show Cord Industries. Show more of Lopez being a character.
Right.
Like, do one, like you do multiple trailers. One of those trailers should have had backstory of the villain.
Right.
Like, show me these things and I would have been interested, instead of sending out PRs every 2 seconds about how it's so important that we're doing this and that with this movie. It's like, okay, but like, you're not gonna get me in the movies unless I think it looks good.
Right.
And all I thought was it looks like Iron Man, and I've done that already.
Yep.
So I think your explanation here put me at a point where I'm like, I would like to see that movie. I still don't think I would have gone to the theaters for it, to be honest with you.
But I don't think I would have came out. I didn't go to the theaters for it. So
yeah, but now I'll watch it on Max, where I probably would have ignored it on Max.
Yeah, no, it was I would say it was a lot of fun. I was pleasantly surprised, and I will say the characters are a lot more likable than I thought they were. Even the grandmother and stuff. Like, I was like, you know what? And the trailers, I'm like, why is the grandmother holding a gun? And then by the end of the movie, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? Like,
that was the only character that I was like, yeah, the grandma. No,
yeah, no, like you'll find out. It's like really cool. It was a lot of fun. So
no, it's all interesting. I just, yeah, I think we need to do a better job on marketing.
Yeah,
like, and to be fair too, it also used to be the other way, where I always felt like we got trailers where I just watched the movie,
saw everything.
Yeah. Like, there's got to be a soft point in between where you can like show me like interesting tidbits about this character that aren't just like clickbait.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need the trailer guy to come back and be like, in a world where Ted Kord has gone missing. It's like, okay, thanks. Now I got like
better PR. And like,
you
need people who have lived a life to do PR.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
yeah.
Not people who left college and immediately went to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, grab dude from Kansas and be like, dude, what do you think we should do? Like, well, if you talk about this part and this, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because everything you said just made that sound infinitely more interesting than anything.
Yeah, I watched it. I was like, wow, I was actually really impressed and pleasantly surprised. I mean, you go on these things with low expectations now, Chris, right? So
I try to go into. Well, I mean, I automatically go into DC movies with it because that's the only way I can enjoy them at this point. Yeah. And I try with Marvel stuff too. I try with everything now. Just like, okay, let's just have fun. Like, it doesn't have to be the greatest movie ever, but it is tough sometimes. Like, going into Oppenheimer without expectations is near impossible.
Yeah, I mean, that's, right, for sure.
So, hopefully to the fullest.
Yeah, do what makes you happy. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say about that. Unless it's a lot of drugs, then maybe do those. I don't know. Okay. Comic news.
Happy. I mean,
yeah. Artificial happiness. Why not? Marvel announced a new miniseries titled Black Widow and Hawkeye. And no, we're not going to get a conversation of is artificial happiness real happiness, because I don't do philosophy anymore. The Black Widow and Hawkeye series will be written by Stephanie Phillips, art by Paolo Villanelli. It'll be an espionage comic, Chris, that will explore the fact that Black Widow now has her own symbiote. So, okay, a lot of cool things happening here. Stephanie Phillips, the All-Star, is on this book. Black Widow and Hawkeye team up. I think that's a more solid stance than a Hawkeye or Black Widow book on its own. And she has a symbiote, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yep.
Did I check all the boxes?
Yep.
Are you going to be
still
reading
won't buy this book?
No? Oh man, I really thought they got you with the espionage part.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only part that intrigues me. But like, I don't know, two characters that you can do good books about any character. Yeah. The Hawkeye series that Matt Fraction did is top tier comics.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That being said, there's some characters that are just side characters to me.
Yeah.
And Black Widow and Hawkeye are two side characters to me. I like Stephanie Phillips just fine, but I don't know. Her Marvel stuff really hasn't been blowing me out of the water, if I'm being fair and honest with everybody. And these are two characters that don't move the needle for me. And I have a really big pull list, Mike. So you gotta go above and beyond for me.
Yeah. Yep.
But that being said, if I start seeing everything about how good this book is, and people are really singing the praises, like people in my circle, I don't trust internet people.
Yeah, right.
That, coming from an internet person, but
are we on the internet? Wait a second. Why should they trust us? Okay.
I mean, like websites and stuff, because I feel I don't know. Reviews are tough,
right?
Because I started doing some of them, and especially in the world of comics, like when do you see bad reviews?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, people in my circles, if they're like, this is really good, you should check. I might check it out down the line as a trade or something. But week to week, you're not gonna get me.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry,
DC
Stephanie.
Comics. Sorry, Stephanie. DC Comics has revealed to look at their variant covers for Titans Beast World. They're bringing back the lenticular cover gimmick, which will have different DC characters transforming. The first issue will have Beast Boy transforming into Starro. This sounds wild.
You gonna get some physical comics now,
Mike? I probably will. I like me some lenticular covers, Chris. So I don't know. And Beast Boy transforming into Starro sounds like the craziest cover ever.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to destroy your innocence, but I don't know. I saw the cover and I was like, oh, okay.
No,
that's what you're doing. It's literally just like the two-way thing where like it's Beast Boy and then Starro and then it's Beast Boy and then it's Starro. It's not like an Animorphs cover where you like slowly do it and he like transforms.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for. If it's not like that, then I'm out.
Yeah. What's funny to me here is when I was reading about this and like looking over it and then thinking back to Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
And you remember how there were supposed to be those covers that you opened up like a Hallmark card and it roared?
Yeah.
Those haven't hit the stores yet, Mike.
Yeah, I noticed that. None of them have come out.
So they're having issues with well, 1 second. They're having issues with their like special covers all of a sudden. And I don't know if this will be affected by it. It doesn't move the needle for me, so it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Now DC did say like, well, this is a special thing. It's never been done before, which is not true. A, Rick and Morty did it.
Yep.
B, Hallmark's been doing it for years. But
years.
Yeah. So the whole voice thing, the roar thing is just not true. Don't believe DC's.
It just sounds really shitty out of a really tiny speaker in a comic book.
Yeah, but I want it.
Yeah, exactly.
These won't move the needle. What would move the needle for me though, Mike, is if they brought back 3D covers. Do you remember those?
Yeah, like the villains ones.
Yeah. So I talked about it weeks ago, but I've been like cataloging my comics, hence why there's like tons of long boxes behind me.
Yeah.
And I started with my DC ones and going all the way. So New 52 is where most of my stuff starts.
Mm-hmm.
And like getting to that point, and then I'm just like looking at them and I lose like 5 minutes just being like, ooh, look at that. And then pull out the next one. Because if I had a series, I had every single villain one.
Oh, yeah. Me too. That was like the one event where I had to have every book because it was so freaking cool.
That would move the needle. Lenticular, I mean,
yeah.
Depends what it is.
Yeah.
This, not so much.
Yeah, this doesn't really do it, I guess. DC announced a new line of graphic novels called DC Compact. What? These graphic novels will be reprints of the most popular comics like Watchmen, Court of Owls, Hush, American Vampire, and more in a manga-sized format priced at $9.99. They hope to tap into the manga market with these compact comics. That's really interesting, Chris.
Yeah. I'm going to be following this one heavy.
Yeah, June 2024. So I think that's a really cool idea by them. I wonder if they're all going to be in color, or if they're going to do black and white, or like what's that going to look like?
I think they're color.
Okay.
There's 2 things here. So they want to tap into the manga market, which I get. There's a huge market and it's growing, which is something that a lot of people in comics want to deny and say that comics are growing. They're not.
Yeah, right.
And when I talk about that, I'm talking about like comics that we enjoy. So DC, Marvel, Image, like those ones. Like if you want to have the argument, say like, well, Dogman's growing. Okay, you're right, but that's not like it's not comics,
right?
As we talk about it,
right.
The one thing in here that's curious, because they do some of it right, in my opinion, some of it wrong to hit this market, is that one of the things everybody talks about with manga is contained stories, that there may be 20 volumes, but it's one story.
Yep.
So doing Watchmen, that's one story. Good. Mm-hmm. doing American Vampire, you could do, I think there's 8 volumes of that, so you could do 8 to 10, however many you want to do.
Yep.
Contained story. When you get into Batman, you're outside of those realms.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll be interested to see what hits, what doesn't, if this works, if people in that market are, like, see this as interesting. If I go into Walmart and do I see Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia and Watchmen right next to each other? Because right now they're separate.
Right.
Things like that. So I think this is really interesting. I think it's smart for the most part. It just got to be done right. I think actually a company like Image would succeed heavily with this because everything they do is, for the most part, self-contained.
Yeah.
But yeah. And the price point's really good.
We'll see how the format looks. I don't know about squishing the format into a mini book. What's especially for something like Watchmen that has a lot of those 9-panel pages. You know what I mean?
It's a good point. Yeah, Watchmen might be tough.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's gonna all really unfold.
Because even manga is like big 6-panel grids.
Yeah, and a lot of it's a lot of action, like split up, and not a whole lot of talking most of the time.
Yeah.
No, we'll see.
I almost think too, we'll see, because I think this is an idea to do for minimal effort, maximum gain.
Yeah.
Which is one of the mistakes that DC and Marvel do a lot. I almost think it would be more interesting, something that Marvel actually did 3 decades ago, is to do, and actually, to be fair, DC's kind of doing it right now, is to do a separate universe that's just like manga.
Yeah, right.
Because
that's been a hit.
Yeah, Marvel has the manga verse, and to like release it in that format, which, like I said, DC's doing right now. So we'll see how that works out too. Yeah, cool. A lot of good ideas here. I'm liking this because I want comics to grow, because I want comics when I'm 80.
Yep, more comics. Keep them coming. What did we read this week, Chris? So I will say what I didn't read. The Radiant Black 20, this is
26.5.
Yeah, 0.5 came out. I haven't read it yet.
I went out of my way to catch up so that we could talk about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't read it yet.
And I didn't read it.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I guess we'll get back to it next week. I got to catch up on Guardians of the Galaxy. I caught up on Masters of the Universe, Forge of Destiny. It's a fun book. Basically, Skeletor gets involved now. He's found this magical, actually like mechanizing item to fight magic, and he's like transformed himself into this crazy looking. You can see. Oh, where did he go? He's like Ultra Skeletor.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty sick. So that's a fun series. One more issue for that. I'm sure there's going to be a big battle with He-Man, which is all I could ask for out of these.
Was that issue 3 or 4?
3. Yeah, because I read 2 and 3. Godzilla, There Will Be Dragons. Did not read that this week. I caught up on The Wrong Earth. Did you know about this book Serial with Mark Russell at Ahoy Comics?
Yes.
Okay, I got to read that. But I read.
Did you buy it?
No.
Okay, good, because it's in our review drive.
Okay, great. The Wrong Earth, We Could Be Heroes #1. You know, I love me some Wrong Earth. Basically, the We Could Be Heroes comes from, well, first off, we see a lot of shitty villains in this issue, which is great. The We Could Be Heroes comes from the like mayor and the like constable are like locked up, and they decide that like they find this hidden room in the jail that came from Dragonfly Man, where they have these costumes, so they dress up like animals, like with these animal masks, and they try to be heroes, and then they get caught because they're awful at being heroes. And then all of a sudden, everybody shows up that was trapped on Earth Z, like Lady Dragonfly, Dragonfly Man, and then a couple other like stingers that we haven't seen show up to save them all. And that says to be continued. Really good issue. Love this series. Love this universe that they built. And then, Chris, I read the Batman Beyond. Friggin' sick. To see like Swamp Thing at the end of it.
I really don't want to spoil that for you.
Yeah. And then these other two people with Swamp Thing.
One I'm thinking is Poison Ivy, or a descendant of Poison Ivy.
And then there's a purple one. I don't know.
I forget.
But either way, it looks awesome. War in the Garden. So now we know what the Garden is. Like you said, the origin story for the cat guy is really good. Constantine's a piece of shit. I really enjoyed that. And then I have volume 8 of Kaiju number 8. I'm reading through. I'm almost done with that. Really good. We're getting to the point where they made a suit out of like Kaiju armor, and they made like a Kaiju suit, and one of the like army people is like pushing himself to the limits, testing it out, like fighting one of the Kaiju, and it has like freeze powers, so he's like freezing the Kaiju as he's fighting it. It's sick.
So we got Kaiju Iron Man.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's like taking a toll on his body. It's like breaking his bones and like tearing his muscles as he's using it. And he just keeps pushing farther, classic anime fashion. Going Ultra Instinct, Chris, if you will. But that's what I had this week. There's still some stuff I'm behind on. I'm hoping to catch up this coming week.
So, yeah, some older stuff. Void Rivals number 5 was last week. I read that. Another pretty good issue. There's not much to talk about in it because a lot of it is like this whole back and forth about the different cultures. And then like we find out in this one that there's an underground movement that understands that they're both like from the same lineage, and that this is an old scuttlebutt from decades ago that is all around like politics and religion and all this stuff, meant to keep a machine going. Tell me if anything sounds familiar, Mike. Keep a machine going that like keeps them at war all the time. So it's a good book, but like it's a lot of like getting into this. And then we keep flashing over to that guy that they met in space, who's like a space merchant who's just tries to scrap things and sell them to like help his kids. And he just keeps going to Transformers to try to sell things. And I think that's just Kirkman's way of being like, remember Transformers, remember Transformers.
Remember, they're here. They're a thing.
But they're funny little moments throughout it, so I don't mind them. And then Black Hammer, The End, number 3 was last week. And what was cool about this issue was it ends with we find out that Black Hammer, the new Black Hammer's daughter, in like our world, because they got transported to our world, thinks she's found a way back, and her whole plan is that she's going to become Black Hammer. So I have a feeling that because Anti-God's back and you've got Colonel Weird and all them trying to fight him with this like multiverse team that doesn't have a Black Hammer because somebody's gone through and killed them all, that like now this is going to end with her taking over, and then like she wins by being Black Hammer, destroys Anti-God in the end. But it's really cool that Black Hammer is like kind of finally come to a conclusion, and we're seeing all of these characters that I've been reading for years.
That's cool.
Marvel Unleashed number 3 came out, and just another fun issue of animals fighting demons.
Nice.
Like and it ends with like the big bad opening the door to the real world from the 10th level of hell and sending his army through. So now we're going to see like it's a 4-issue miniseries, so we're going to see the big fight at the end. But I like there's a lot of conversation about like what a hero is and everything. And now on to actually last week, Edenwood number 1 I read that digitally. That's a book that Tony Daniel is doing, but he's writing and drawing it.
Oh, cool.
So I wanted to check it out because I like Tony Daniel.
Yeah.
And it's a cool first issue, but he takes a lot of swings. So like it takes place in our world, but like something happened that created these bubbles around the world that are slowly taking everything over, that are kind of fantasy-esque, but they're being taken over by demons. And then when you go into it, it's its own atmosphere almost, where like time moves differently and all this shit. and you've got these armies of witches who have also found out how to create like actual armies and like tanks and shit. So it's this weird mix of like magic and like military stuff. But the main character we meet is a demon hunter who finds this kid who jumps into one of the bubbles and finds himself in the middle of this war and like kind of puts him under his wing. And then snap, we're 3 years in the future and we don't know what's going on. But we see the demon hunter again and he's talking about things. And they're trying to find this girl that also jumped in with them. So you get the idea like the little kid died. And then you find out later that no, the demon hunter died and the little kid's the demon hunter now.
Oh.
And then he gets like he runs into a group of the military people who are just running around like killing anything that looks like a demon. Yeah. And we find out there's demons that can like turn into people and then like transform to kill them. And so they just see this person that looks weird with like it almost looks like a Revolutionary War jacket.
Yeah.
And then like a skull mask on. It's a cool design.
Yeah.
And they shoot him up and just like kill him. And like, okay, so the lead character's dead now. What the fuck?
Yeah, what the hell?
But Mike, of course, he's not dead.
Because he's a demon.
We don't know why. But he just like gets up and he has like a bullet hole in his eye. And he's like, oh, hey. And he finds out that the person who was shooting at him was one of his friends from back in the real world.
Oh my God.
So like I said, a lot of swings and a lot of weird things, but enough questions where I'm like, I'll check out issue 2 and see what you got here.
Yeah.
I think my biggest critique is that like because Tony Daniel's an artist, and I find this when artists try to do writing, he overwrites and points. Like there's times where I'm like, you could have trimmed that down a bit. Like we didn't need all this exposition here. Or this could have been like put into another issue instead of like continuing to layer shit for me.
It's like his Deathstroke run.
Oh, I forgot he wrote that.
Just do the Deathstroke art. I don't even remember what that story was about.
Yeah, so I'll buy issue 2 and check it out, but it's on a short leash. I'll put it at that. Okay. A lot of cool ideas. Just probably should have hired a writer.
Yeah, or somebody to organize them.
The Avengers #7, which was an okay issue. We get this future story where it's like the end of the world and it's the last fight of the Avengers. And then we find out this is one that I like Jed McKay, but this is one of the cheesiest like literary devices that can be used. And this is something we talked about in like high school is like, don't do this when you're writing.
Right.
It's all a dream, Mike.
Oh no.
And we find out that like they're all just being controlled by this like puppet master and put to sleep. And when they wake up, they like are back to where they were in the Impossible City at the end of the last issue.
Yeah.
And that's when like the real villain shows up, which is the Meriden and the Twilight Court that we saw in last year's issue of Timeless. And they're there to take out Kang. But they're not necessarily good guys either, as we learned in that Timeless issue. So I don't know. It sets up like them coming to be the big bad, but I thought it was kind of a lame story device for an entire issue to get 2 pages of like, and this is what the story's about. So yeah, and they do. Who did the art on this? Villa, CF Villa. Carol Danvers is swole in this issue.
That's awesome.
It's like, dude, veins popping out of her arms.
Amazing.
Like it was funny. It was funny to see because Carol's always been drawn as strong.
Yeah.
But like slender, like feminine strong. And this one, she just looks like She-Hulk strong from like,
that's awesome.
No One issue 6. This series as a whole, if you take in the book, the podcast, everything, is one of my favorite things happening right now.
Cool.
Because everything that's happening in that podcast now, it started off kind of just like, this is the recap of the book. And now it's taken on its own life and it's telling its own story that's affecting what's happening in the comic.
Cool.
Which will be interesting in like resale of this book.
Yeah.
But for being in the moment, it's a really cool thing. But basically, like in the last podcast, they tried to name suspects of who no one was. And by doing that, they gave the accountability killer names of people to kill. And so in this issue, he's going around killing all those people until they find the last person. And when that happens, no one basically tails him and uses him as bait to find him and tries to fight him. But fails, gets shot, and then the kid or the guy who's protecting helps no one get out and does like that classic, like, should I take the helmet off to see who it is? And then doesn't and runs away because no one tells him just to go because he's bleeding out from this bullet wound. And then the reporter that's a part of the podcast, there's a whole B story of her freaking out because she feels like these deaths are her responsibility because she did the show and everything when she was forced by the publisher to do it. There's just a lot of cool stuff in here. And I'm interested on how this ties in with anything Radiant Black, because it is part of the Massiveverse. But it's a really cool book.
Guess you'll find out eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Mortal Thor number 3. This will be my last issue. It's just not doing it.
Damn.
It's spinning wheels. We're not moving anything forward. I think that Al Ewing's like getting too clever with himself at this point, and I was never a big fan of his writing to begin with. Like Immortal Hulk was really good, and I am enjoying the Avengers Inc. book, but outside of that, I can't name something that I really liked by him.
Right.
And I've talked to a few people, and they all seem to be feeling the same about Thor. So we'll see how that one holds up. Midnite Show number 2. So we find out that like what's happening is the curse of that movie has come to the real world, and now they're being transported to the world that those movies take place in. And what happened is basically the plot of the movie is being played out in the real world, where all the different they're versions of the Universal monsters.
Yeah.
And all of them are fighting for supremacy to see who's the best monster. And then
that's awesome.
Like Van Helsing shows up and he's just like, I'm gonna help save everybody.
Oh, cool.
It's a really cool, I mean, it's Cullen Bunn, it's a cool premise, and it's got Universal Monster stuff in it, so I'm really enjoying it. And I like his twist on Frankenstein. It might have been done before, but I'm not like the biggest Frankenstein fan. Where this version of Frankenstein was created, and then Frankenstein's monster was created, and then Dr. Frankenstein took his brain and put it inside of Frankenstein.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's Frankenstein's body with Dr. Frankenstein's brain.
That's cool.
And I got Ultimate Universe number 1.
So
this is the last of the Ultimate Universe stuff before the books start happening. Basically, all you need to know, Mike, is that Thor is free. He was imprisoned by the Asgardians for some crime. They have Captain America and Ice, but they're not really sure how to get him out without killing him. And Thor just wants to smash the ice open.
Nope.
And all this is being done by Iron Lad, which is Tony Stark, and Doctor Doom, which is Reed Richards.
Interesting.
They run into Captain Britain, they fight him, but they go to where the Maker is kept so the Maker, like any good villain, kept everything, all the artifacts from how he changed time. So like he has the spider that was supposed to create Spider-Man and like things like that.
Yeah.
And they go to one of these places and find a bunch of them and take them. And so that's how they're going to reset the Ultimate Universe, is they're going to take these items and somehow create things.
Yeah.
So I almost think that because Peter's still alive, I don't know if you probably don't remember, but in one of the Ultimate books from a few months ago, we saw that the Maker saved Peter from being bitten by the spider.
Right.
But Peter's still alive.
Yeah.
So this said to me that we're not going to do time travel and change things. We're just going to create the heroes here and now. And if that's true, that makes Peter Parker all the more interesting, in that he's going to be middle-aged and just getting the powers.
And just getting his powers. Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting twist.
Yeah, and then through all that, like the different clans that are controlling all the world, one of them basically betrays them, so they decide they're going to take it over. And the area they're talking about is the United States. It's North America, but it's the United States. And they bomb New York City.
Oh my god!
So it's a giant crater in New York City now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, really cool. I'm really excited for Ultimate stuff. And then I'll just finish real quick with a Kickstarter book, technically 2 Kickstarter books. Hospice. I've got Hospice from Frank Martin, which is the Catskill Cannibal, and then Hospice from Travis Gibb, which is No Freedom in Texas. I'll start with Gibbs, No Freedom in Texas. It's been, out of everybody who was in this project, Gibb was probably my favorite. And this has been my least favorite book. It centers around things that I thought there's some bad dialogue choices in here, I think. And I would love to talk to him about them. Because, like, I get if you have criticisms of certain people and everything, and some of the criticisms are justified. Right. But, like, there's literally a line in here where a guy goes, "Please help me, Republican Jesus." And I'm just like, dude, nobody says that. Like, I get what you're going for, and I get the criticism, but, like, nobody says that.
Yeah, nobody says that.
But it's about, like, people jumping the border. And when they get here, they're chased by these guys who are, like, who are border control, but they're not working for the government. So they're just like dudes who think they're border control, and they chase them into the hospice where a demon appears, and then they get attacked. But the demon needs to eat an innocent in order to, like, transform. And so the guy who is the border control tries to get the immigrant to, like, give him his daughter, the baby, and be like, "Oh yeah, just take him," because he doesn't care about him. And the guy obviously won't do it. Long story short, he ends up killing the border agent and then transforms, and the guy's just confused because he's like, "Well, how is he an innocent?" And the lady's just like, "Well, by innocent we meant virgin," and, like, that's that's the joke. I just thought it landed flat. Maybe it's me, but yeah,
you didn't need to go that route with it. I feel like
I felt like it was just trying to poke fun at certain things. And like I said, if that's, I mean, he wanted to tell the story he wanted to tell, so I'm not justifying that or judging that. I'm just saying, for me personally, it just all landed flat. And it's unfortunate because, like I said, Gibb was probably my favorite of the group. And his didn't hit. The other ones have been really good though. So 1 out of 4 so far.
Not bad.
But then Frank Martin's one I really liked. So the whole idea here is it's a cannibal who lives in upstate New York. So right there, you got me. He has to maintain a weight of 666 pounds.
Oh my god.
So, like, just add in that little demon stuff for me. He has one of those demons inside of him. He's on death's row, but they let him go to this hospice house instead. And so all these hospice houses that they're doing in this book are all run by the same people. And the hospice, like, paid off some people and said, bring him here because he has a demon inside of him. They want to bring it out. And that's kind of the whole crux of the story. Like, he goes there and it's run by, like, a 5-star chef and everything. And we find out that chef's all fucked up too because he, like, kills people and serves it to people.
Of course.
And yeah, he gets his last meal, which is another human. And then when he does that, like, that's enough to get him to the point where this demon can be released and everything. It's really fucked up. The art's really cool too, because, like, I mean, you saw the
you can see the guy in the front. Yeah, it's gross.
Like, that's the art throughout the book too.
That's cool.
So, like, you can see he goes pretty gross with it. Like,
oh yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book in that I'm not one for horror, but I do dabble in horror, Mike, here and there. And this has been one I enjoyed.
Cool.
So, Mike, I believe that's everything I read this week. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter. Where can they find you and or the show?
Find me at Fortress Chris on whatever social media you like. I'm there. And you can find the show at Fortress Comics _ on Twitter or at fortresscomicnews.com. If you want to support the show, good ways to do it are to give us 5-star reviews on podcatchers. Like, subscribe, share, comment down below on YouTube. If you want to support me, you can go over to chriscomicscorner.substack.com. And then also you can support us at patreon.com/fortunecomics. Thank you all so much for listening this week, and we'll see y'all here next week.